Hello friend, welcome back. In our previous video here we successfully designed our view and I added one of the card as a student search and I get all that our year data, I get all that our class data, right? And also there is one of the search button. So friend, I have noted one things like this div and our this div actually not that matched. That means our alignment is not matching, right? Because of all into this student list, if you go to our view page, into the view page, and that is our student list, you can see into the student list they are using one of the div, that is a div class as a call 12. Okay, so that is the call 12 class. I also want to apply it for our this student search, then our two of these div alignment will be actually the same. Okay, I show you like I copy this call 12 and that is our last one, and then here I started our this div as a box bb3 and the box awning, right? So first of all I want to add this div, that is a call 12 date, and also we have to end it. So that is our last one. So after this I take another one. Okay, I take another one, and also I put some of the note for you, that is the end call 12. Okay, or fast call 12. So that will be actually better. I just simply close it. That means I put some of the note for you. So now if you click as a save all, and now if you refresh it, yes, you can see now that is our call 12. Okay, now that is appropriate our same alignment. So now actually it's looking great. I hope you like it very much. So design depends on your portion. Okay, so whatever the things actually you choose, you can actually highlight it as per your demands, because that is very much interactive one of the things, and there have a lot of the functionality. You can actually take it and you can make your site so much professional look. Okay, so right now it's okay with me. So now friend, I want to do as I told you here, first of all into the view page, I want to select one of the year, I want to select one of the class, and this selected year, this selected class, one of the data, only one data I want to visible. Okay, so that will be not that empty. So here only one data will be visible. For if you want to do that work, we have to work in our view. That means our where I'm actually passing all the data. So that is our student registration view. Okay, so into this method area I get that year, I get that classes. So right now you can see it's now loaded all that our year, it's now loaded all that our classes. So as I told you, first of all I want to get a specific one data. Okay, that means a specific one row data. So if you want to get that a specific one row data, that will be as a fast data, right? So I want to get that year one of the fast data, I want to get that one of the class one of the fast data, and that will be selected, and then this data related search option will be selected with one example. Okay, when I actually done it, everything will be very clear to you. So for doing this, if you go here, okay, here I want to do that is our year. I copy that year and I paste it. Okay, I paste it. So into the year, first of all I want to add right now I want to assign all the things in our assign student. If you go to our database, if you go to that assign students, and with the assigned student, you can see that is actually our year ID, right? So from to the year ID we have to get this data, from to the class ID we have to get this data. So now first of all I want to get this our year ID. So into this year, but I put some of the space. So into the year I name it our field as a year ID. Okay, I name it on the variable as a year ID. So with this year ID, that means in our students here I want to first of all get all that our order by data. So I make it as order by, and then order by will be our student year table ID. It should be, I just make it as a ascending order. Okay, ASC, and I get all that ascending order, and then I get that fast data. As I told you, I only want to get one specific ID data, so that will be our ID. Okay, so that is the one specific row ID data. I simply take it. I hope it's very much clear to you, friend. So if you also want to check it, that means which data actually our last data, if you want to check it, you can check it with the DD like I show you, then everything will be more clear to you. So with this data I want to check it. I want to check our year ID is the last one. So I just simply add that this year ID. Okay, so this year ID. So if you now click as a save all, and now it should be display which data actually the last one, If you now go there, and now if you click as a refresh, yes, you can see now it's showing as a 2. They have the one of the last ID as a 2. That means 2 ID data means if you go to our year, into the year, if you go to our total database, there is a database. If you go to that year, that means student year. Student year, you can see into the student year there is a 2 ID. That is the first one. Okay, so you can say I am using that ascending order. That means it should get this data with the first one. So that is our first data as a 2, right? That means perfectly it's now getting our this first data. Because of all, if you actually use it as a descending order, then it should be get your last data, right? So now it's perfectly display our first data ID, and you can see it's now getting that our first data ID. Okay, so I want to do our first year will be selected, or first class will be selected. So if you want to change it to the not the first, if you want to display the last, you can use it as a descending order, DESC, right? So now if you click as a save all, so now our last one is 5, right? So now it should be display our 5, that is our student 5 ID. It should be display this one. Now click as a refresh. Yes, you can see friend, now it's actually display the 5, right? I hope that concept is very much clear to you. So if you want to get that ascending data, you can add that ascending. If you want to get the descending data, you can add the descending, right? And also I want to add the same. I copy it. I need also the class ID, so I paste it. So if you go to our ascending table, there have also another table as a class ID. So now I want to display that class ID, class underscore ID. Okay, so this class ID will be our student class model. With this student class model, I get that order by data as a ID and the descending order. That means last one will be visible as a first. I get that a specific one row data. So for the reasons I make it as a first, you can see it's now getting a specific one ID data. Okay, so that is our ID. So after that I pass this ID. Okay, so now if you DD this, if you now DD our this class ID, so now if you click the save all, so that is our descending order, right? That means our last one will be visible into the first. If you go to our class ID, I show you, everything will be very clear to you. Okay, so right now we don't need this. If we now go to our class, that is our student class, right? So to the student class, our last ID is what? Our last ID is the 6. That means now it should be displayed as a 6. Now if you click as a refresh, yes, you can see that concept exactly the same. So now it's display our last one. So if you want to display that first one, then you can use it as a ascending order, right? So friend, I want to do our this last 6 ID will be selected, and also for the year I have already checked it, our 5 ID will be selected. Okay, so that is the 2 of this data will be selected, and this data I want to visible fast. So right now there is a DD, so right now we don't need this. I better put some of the comments for you that will help you. Okay, so I take 2 of this data with the year ID. I take that student last data with the our class ID. So now I want to pass all the data in our this student view page, right? So now we have to also update it our assign student model. So here I want to do and to put on the condition as a where. Okay, I put that where condition. How much easy it is, I show you how into the where condition, where our this assign table, that means this assign that is actually our assign table, and this our year ID. So when this year ID will be matched with our this specific last ID, okay, that means our this year ID. So that is the all we have to do. I make it as year ID. So into this our assign student table, year ID will be matched with our this year ID. So that is actually our data year ID, right? So now I simply copy total things. I copy total things and here I paste it. I hope it's very much clear to you, friend. And after that I also want to do and to get that our last ID data for our class, that means our student class. So that will be just like that same. I add another where condition, and that will be the also same in our assign student table, into the assign student table, and that is our class ID. So this class ID will be our this last class ID, right? Because I have already get that our descending all the data. So that is our field name as a class ID. So that is our it will be where our class ID. Okay, actually I name it So here our class ID will be matched with our which one? Our class ID will be matched with our last descending order, that first specific ID data. I take the things with this variable. So here it will be this. Okay. So this class ID will be matched with our this class ID. Okay, friends. So that's all. And after that, I want to get this data. I simply get this data. Okay, I get this data, take the things with this variable as a all data. So that is our all data variable. So now I pass all that our year ID data. I pass that class ID, classes, year, and then all data. So if you use that compact, then you have to actually pass these three. That means the 3 and the 4, 5. That means the 5 variable data you have to pass it if you use that compact. But here I take that every data with this our data array. So now with this data array, I simply pass all that our data. Right, friends? So now I want to work in our student view. Okay, so here I want to visible because that will be one of the last class ID, last year ID. So this last class ID and year ID data, only one single row I want to visible. Right. Right now I click as a save all, and now if you refresh it, so these last two of this data should be visible. So now here you can see, friend, it's now showing as a no data available. Because of all, I didn't actually add any data. If you go, that is actually our class is as a 6, right? So that is our 6, and also that is the 5. Maybe I didn't add any data into the 2019 to our class 5. Better I want to insert another data. Then one data should be loaded. I show you. If you now click as a add new. Okay, I click as add new. So now I name it as a test, or I name it as a Rohim. Okay, I name it as Rohim and Abdul. Okay, I name it as Abdul, and I name it as Nazma, and then put some of the mobile number, put that India, and put that as a gender as a male, and then I will bid the religion as a Islam. I put that as a date of birth. Okay, I show you everything will be, I think you already know that main concept, what exactly the things I want to do. So that is our discount. So that is our year. So if you go, because of all, you can see I have already added that year. That means our last data I get, right? That means our last year I get our last descending order. So I didn't actually insert any student data with like that way. Okay. So for the reasons I am actually inserting one of the data. First of all, our last year I get it. Our last year, if you go to our database table, the database table, our last year is I have inserted as a 2019. Right, and also if you go to our classes, that means student classes, our last one as a class 5. So now here I have to actually insert one of the data, as a 2019. I insert one of the 2019, and class will be as a class 5, right? Maybe, yeah, there is a class 6. That means the class 5 means our last ID data. So now I want to insert this type of one of the data as a 19 data, and there is a class 5. That means this Rohim data should be visible. Now I click as a art group. I make it as a shift 1. So I choose one of the image, this one. Okay, I choose this one image. Now click as a, or rather than I have already used a lot of the time this image. I want to use this image. Okay, I use this image. Now click as a submit. So now this data should be visible. Yes, you can see, friend, that is the things I am actually doing. So that is our last data, and that means our last class data maybe. Yeah, that is our last class data as a 6, and you can see it's now visible. Our last class data is a 6, and that is our year data. If you go to our year, our last year data I have inserted as a 5, right? So now it's perfectly visible. Okay, so right now we don't need this. Okay, so now that is the things I did on particular that area, and after that you can see I compare both of these, where our ID will be matched with our requested this year ID, where our class ID will be matched with our requested this class ID. Then I get this data and I pass it to our student view. Right, I pass it with the all data, and if you go to our view page, into the view page I have already displayed, you can see all data as a value. So with this value I display our class name, ID, and then our year ID. I hope friend you get that main core functionality, what exactly the things I did on here. Okay, so now I want to visible this one data. So here only one data always will be visible. Okay, that means our last always our last year ID data, last class ID data, always this data will be visible. And then if you search with this date, if you search with this class, then our every search result will be visible. Okay, so better I want to continue this process. In our next video I will update our this portion because I have already insert lot of the field for our student registration, right? So here I can update it. In our next video I will show you that things with a live example. So thanks for watching and I will see you in the next video.